What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? Happy to be back with you once again. It is I, Eric, coming at you from the Nerd Cave one more time, and today we're doing something a little bit different. We're still going to be talking Lorcana, but we're going to be talking about a deck that I designed that is upsetting the meta right now, and I want to show you guys just how good it can be. Alright, so I've got the deck laid out into 4 piles, and we're going to kind of take a look at the deck overall, what cards are important, and how they're functioning to the build. First off, I can't take total credit for this design. It was designed during set 2 by another player who had actually won a tournament with it. I have changed it for set 3. We had actually changed it during set 2 and then changed it even further during set 3 into kind of a little bit of a different strategy. We took out Arthur, which was a major component of the deck during set 2. We've got this deck down to under $60, just over $50, but stick around and see what cards you'll need to upset the meta on a budget. So first off, we do have 4 copies of Lilo, Making a Wish. This card is hugely important to the deck as it is a 1-drop that is going to quest for 2, and so in that vein we are also running 4 copies of Maleficent Biding Her Time. Same exact thing, but in Amethyst. These cards are a key component of the deck, and some of the more expensive cards on the deck. I believe a playset of each of these will run you around $20 total, like for all 8 cards. And also in the 1-drop slot, our last character, we got your boy from set 1, Pascal. Some people think Pascal is losing favor in the current meta as there are a lot of evasive characters that can take him out, but my argument to that is that he is an inkable character. If you are in a situation where that's relevant to you, typically the play is to just ink Pascal and play Maleficent or Lilo instead. And the last but not least in our 1-drop slot, making up our 15 total 1-drops in the deck, are 3 Befuddles. Befuddle is a great card, not only when it comes to stopping your opponent and kind of keeping up that tempo so you can keep questing in. So you can get rid of those characters who may be attacking back in to kill your characters after you've quested, or if you want to just protect your character and you have a little extra ink open, you can actually befuddle your own character back to your hand and then play it out again to keep it protected from being attacked into. Moving right along to the 2-drop slot, this is a character that we carried over from the set 2 build, but that is the 2-drop Pinocchio Star Attraction. He was definitely very good with Arthur because Arthur could protect him more consistently, but then Arthur would just really die, so we found that the best option is to try to focus in on just getting that one big quest out of him, or in some instances you may be able to snake him back to your hand or Mim Fox him back to your hand to get a couple quests out of him, but if you get 2 quests out of Pinocchio Star Attraction, you're doing pretty good. One of the few spells in the deck, we are also running 3 Bare Necessities. Bare Necessities has made this deck entirely more consistent. Not only can it handle things like pull and grab your swords or be prepared out of your opponent's hands, which were your biggest issues during set 2, but you can also even stop combo decks by taking away their Mother Knows Best or their friends on the other side, or against the Jafar deck, taking away their Whole New Worlds. So Bare Necessities I think are really important in the current meta if you're not playing green and you don't have access to Ursula Deceiver. Then we do have another 3 of with Wendy Darling. Just a really solid card. This is another solution outside of Bare Necessities to grab your swords in the current meta. Not a card that's seeing as much play, but there are definitely some 2 damage, direct damage options that are seeing some play in decks. Wendy Darling having 3 willpower is hugely important because she is more of a defensive character in that position. Then one of our 4 ofs, of course, you can't play Amethyst. Well, you can. You can't play many Amethyst decks, especially aggro, without 4 Snake Mims. Snake Mim needs no introduction in a way. She's a 3/3 for 2, quest for 1, bounces one of your characters back to your hand. She's great not only for protecting those 1-drops and 2-drops, the guys with 1 willpower that you want to be able to maybe quest with more than once, but she's just a freaking fantastic body to have on the board to deal some damage and keep some other characters out of your way. Next 2-drop, and this is a new addition from Inklands, we do have Piglet, Pooh, Pirate, Captain. Fantastic card. I didn't think they would say like, oh hey, you know, we have this Pinocchio Star attraction that's really crushing the meta and has been super important questing for 3 for only 2. Let's make him inkable. But that's large, and not only make him inkable, but give him more willpower and more attack. So we have a 2/2 for 2 that's inkable. Obviously that lore, that questing, unlike Pinocchio, is conditional with Piglet. You do have to have 2 other characters on the board, but in a deck like this, you almost always have 2 other characters on the board when you're questing with Piglet. Very seldom have I seen him on the board where that isn't the situation. He's a 2-drop inkable, and so if he's not helpful to you, you just put him in the inkwell. Then we do have our Protective Cub, faithful, tried and true card. 4 amber, only costing 2, and being able to protect some of those 1-drops. Obviously with things like Rafiki and Captain Hook, Simba is a little bit easier to take down going into that second turn, but even if he protects for you once and keeps those guys able to quest for 4 lore on a 1-drop, he's doing his job. Moving into the 3-drop slot, we do have 4 Docs. Doc is one of those cards that may not be as necessary to this deck when it hits the field, because you don't always need to make your next guy cost 1 less, since as you can see here, the top end of the curve is 4, but he is great for dealing with some of your opponent's targeted removable, because they usually think Doc is going to be very important in your play strategy. They're going to want to get rid of him. Also, he's a 3-drop that quests for 2, which even if you don't need his ability, is pretty solid. It's a great way to keep up tempo. And we do have, just like the Mim, snakes are a staple in the 2-drop slot. In the 3-drop slot, we of course have 4 Mim foxes. Great for dealing with some spot removal, getting guys out of your way that may be killing your other characters. 4 attack on a rush character that comes down for 3 is awesome, and she can bounce back those Pinocchios, Piglets, things like that to put them back in your hand, keep them safe for an additional quest. Then we do have another new introduction to the deck, 2 Pongos. I think Pongo is cool. It's something we're trying out right now. I don't know if it'll be the end-all be-all in the 3-drop slot. It's not always great when you've got tempo, but when you're in those longer grindy matches, it's an excellent card to see, because being able to draw that extra card every turn if they can't deal with it, even if you're not questing, can be hugely important in getting out some 1-drops. You could be drawing into Maleficent, you could be drawing into really anything that's going to quest for 2 or 3 in this deck. Wendy Darling, Maleficent, Lilo. You could get your Pinocchio that quests for 3. It's all sorts of great stuff that you can pull up with Pongo. And like I said, he's more for the grindy matches. And then we do have another kind of staple from Amethyst. She's not the heaviest tempo card, but one thing this deck really struggles with is card draw, hence the addition of things like Pongo. So Maleficent is great. She comes down, she lets you draw an extra card, so she can kind of keep up in those early turns with what your opponent's doing draw wise. And if you already have great cards to kind of keep the tempo, again, she's inkable, so you go ahead and throw her in the inkwell. Next card. You probably saw this coming in the 3-drop slot. We do have 4 copies of Friends on the other side. Wildly important card. Lets you draw 2 for 3 ink. Is singable. Another reason for additions like Maleficent, where we have another 3-drop that can come down, and even if she's not the most relevant quester, she can sing your friends on the other side and let you draw. This deck during set 2 was a little more song heavy, also playing Be Our Guest, and did run Cinderella, but since the introduction of things that are ripping songs out of people's hands, we decided to pare down the songs a little bit and focus less on Cinderella and playing that Friends maybe a turn later. Which really hasn't hurt the tempo. Now we only have 2 4-drop slots to round out the deck. We have 4 Merlin Goats. Need no introduction. Gain 1 lore when it comes into play. Gain a lore when it leaves play. You do have the bounce package, so it's a great way to close out games. It's a great way to close out games when you're already very close with questing with those other characters. Another card that is inkable, so if he's not relevant to your game plan, you have the tempo control already. Go ahead and throw him in the inkwell. If you're worried about getting hit with something that's going to knock your guys out, again, he's great to kind of be like, oh, I'm at 17 or I'm at 18. I'm going to throw him down, gain 1 lore. If you remove him, I gain another lore. And so you can almost kind of passively get yourself there with Merlin Goats. The last card in the deck, again, we needed draw in the deck. We took the Merlin Rabbits out, which were part of that solution during set 2. So another 4 cost uninkable was something we definitely had room for. Lucky is a great option for this deck. Reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You may put each character with cost 2 or less into your hand and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Currently, this deck is running, as I mentioned, 12 1-drops and 17, 18 2-drops. So we have 30 cards that are going to fit the bill. So you have basically a 50-50 shot that every card you hit is going to hit for Lucky. I've seen this character draw 3 cards in that ability. What's more is if you already have a pretty healthy board state when he comes down, you can quest with him that next turn. All your other characters quest for 1 more lore. Another great option for closing out games. Definitely a card that I think is being underrated right now. But this deck did go 3-1 at our local league last week, ultimately taking 2nd place in that tournament. It is a deck, again, I can't stress this enough, this entire deck is primarily commons, uncommons, and rares. There's a couple of super rares in here, but not too crazy at all to build. Yeah. I mean, Pongo is super rare, but you can get him out of the starter deck. I think Piglet's a super rare. Those ones you don't get out of the starter deck. Lucky's going to come out of the starter deck. Wendy Darlings are going to come out of the starter deck. A lot of the other cards are common and uncommon. Honestly, mainly the cards you're going to be buying for this most likely. If you bought some set 2 starter decks or just played it during set 2 in general, you may have some Mim Fox and some Mim Snake. Those did come with the set 2 starter deck. So you get a lot of the cards for this deck fairly easily. The deck is coming in at exactly 60 cards with a very healthy curve. It's not even really a mid-range deck. It's definitely a very low to the ground, low, fast, beat your opponent before they can do anything else type of deck. As you saw, there are only 6 4-drops and everything else in the deck is going to cost 3 or less. Total, the deck is under $60. But what do you think of this deck? Do you think it's viable? Do you think it will lose in the meta at your local store or at a bigger tournament? So the only deck that it lost to when it played previously was Ursula Bounce Tempo. I do think he just... My friend who pilots the deck, the Elusive John, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you may remember him. He did the Packy chip eating challenge and a Wendy's burger challenge or chicken sandwich. I think it might have been a chicken sandwich. He's been in some other videos with me, and he'll probably be back for some Lorcana content. We'll be playing some games together. Probably show you this deck in action if that's something you guys are interested in. If there's anything you think I could change or make better about the deck, definitely drop it in the comments below. If you're playing a deck that's similar, I'd love to see your deck list or hear about your experience with a deck that is similar. If you're just generally playing a budget deck that you've had really good experience, definitely drop that in the comments below. I'm always curious to see budget builds. I actually just finished a Ruby Amethyst build that doesn't run any legendaries. It still runs Be Prepared, it still runs Maui, so budget is strong. It's definitely a heck of a lot more expensive than this deck, but it cuts out some of those big expensive Ruby Amethyst legendaries that a lot of those decks are playing. So I'll probably be doing a highlight on that deck list as well. And like I mentioned, we'll have some gameplay, we'll have some more pack openings, so definitely stick around with the channel. If you haven't subscribed, now is a great time to do so. If you enjoy Lorcana content, we're gonna have a ton of it coming at you. We're gonna be doing giveaways and all that fun stuff, so definitely stick around. Thank you so much for sticking with this video until the end. Like, comment, and subscribe if you're enjoying the content. It helps us out a ton. And remember, when you see those toys, video games, and budget Lorcana decks that you can build for just $50 off in the distance, it is not a mirage. You guys have a great day.